Welcome to this week's OK at Work with myself, Sarah Sawyer, my colleague Russell Berger, both attorneys at Offit Kurman. And today we are talking about generative AI, which has been all over the news lately with ChatGPT and some funny things coming out of there with the technology not quite being perfect yet. So definitely been lots of news articles, companies trying to figure out how they want to use it, employees figuring out how they want to use it. So it's definitely a big thing right now. And as part of this, employers are really starting to think about, well, how do we use it for our business? Should we use it? What are the consequences? What are the risks? All those types of things. So what are some things that companies should be thinking about as it relates to these types of technologies, Russell?
Yeah, so as a starting point, whether it's generative AI or the other term that I've seen for it is artificial intelligence language modeling or models. Whatever it is, I think the starting point is for employers to actually address it and to be proactive about it. And there's room for discretion. And certainly, as the technology changes, as we get a better handle on it, as we understand its uses more. We will evolve those policies and maybe there'll be greater clarity on that. But for right now, I think it's important that employers take a position on it and convey that to their employees through a policy. Um, but that policy is really going to be dependent on the employer's business because there's a lot of different issues that come up. One is confidentiality, as in there's a lack of it in ChatGPT, for example, and it's open source and it's all there, and it can cause problems. Obviously, you think about it as a lawyer in a law firm. If we were to ask questions to ChatGPT, we could be betraying attorney-client privilege. But more broadly, we could be putting strategic information out there in this space that someone else could see that we don't want shared, or a client or a customer wouldn't want shared. So there's a lot to think about around that. In addition to the fact that the information you're getting back, may or may not be copyrighted. There may be intellectual property protections around it. Um, your client may be upset that they're paying for you to run a search on ChatGPT instead of doing the work yourselves. Um, and also, there's a question as to accuracy. I mean, ChatGPT is only as good as what's on the internet, which we all know has its inaccuracies and incompletenesses throughout it. So, I mean, those are just some of the questions that I think employers should be thinking about in crafting a policy around this.
Yeah, I think the confidentiality one, definitely something we think a lot about as attorneys, and I think it's something that maybe you wouldn't think about as much naturally about when you're just playing around with the tool and it's exciting and putting those things in. And the accuracy piece, because I think there's so many times where things seem so accurate, you get a bunch of accurate information back, you start assuming it's all accurate. So there could be a situation where employees are using this, they're not checking the information, they're not double checking to make sure it's accurate, and then all of a sudden they're doing something that is inaccurate. You don't know why it's inaccurate, why this has happened. And we've also talked on here before about biases from these platforms and stuff as well. So when employers are starting to use more and more technology to automate things, that there can be bias that comes up as part of that, using those tools and that as well. So really a lot to be thinking about. And I think just like with a lot of other technology, the easier it is, the more likely you are to just trust it, and it just becomes a part of your life. We saw this obviously when we all started sharing data, and now we have tons of data privacy issues and tons of lawsuits around that, and whether people are properly protecting sensitive data and information. And so this is just going to be, I think, a new iteration of that, where you get comfortable with using the technology is great, it makes it more efficient, it makes your job easier, and then you get a little bit too comfortable too fast, and then can get out over your skis a little bit, and it can create issues.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I think this is great technology. I think, just in our profession, we're going to leverage it a ton in the future, and so I think it makes sense to start exploring, but to do so in a safe way, given all these concerns, to manage it and to make sure you don't have employees just running roughshod through these software programs and creating these issues that can exist with that.
Thanks, Russell, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Sarah.